I read that a London man had been the victim of 15 car thefts in the last 8 years. That's bad luck. The first 4 cars he owned were all stolen. One was returned only to be stolen a second time. And just this year, this same man was called to the police station to pick up a cassette player that had been stolen from his car. They had recovered it. And while he was in the station, somebody stole his car. This guy should have a bumper sticker on his car that says, "Car protected by a pit bull." Now we're continuing our sermon series on the 10 Commandments. Please take out the sermon notes. We're looking at the 7th commandment today. Look at Exodus 20, verse 14. You shall not steal. Martin Luther asked that question, and he always asks, what does this mean? And he writes, we should fear and love God so that we do not take our neighbor's money or possessions or get them in any dishonest way, but help him to improve and protect his possessions and income. So we can steal from God. We can steal from the government. We can steal from other people. There are many ways that this commandment applies to each of us. It's amazing the number of ways that we steal. I looked up in the dictionary the word for stealing. I found 138 synonyms. It's amazing the number of ways a human being can think of to rip somebody off. How do we steal? I've just given you 5 examples in your notes. Number 1, we steal by deceiving customers. Deceiving customers was a problem already 3,000 years ago. Look at Amos, chapter 6, verse 5. They overcharged, used false measures, fixed the scales to cheat the customer. That sounds pretty current. When a repairman makes unnecessary repairs, or a doctor makes unnecessary tests, or a salesman skips over the fine print, when you sell a car and you do not tell your problems with it, all of that is called stealing. I'm thinking of some of the real estate brochures that I've seen. You could talk about creative license. I think some realtors are the most creative people there are. There's that starter home. Means a 1-bedroom with no bath. This is a real challenge. Means a home that's been hit by an A-bomb. And this is a fixer-upper. Means it's a heap of junk. We're not to deceive the customer. Number 2 in your notes, we steal by defrauding employers. And I'm not thinking here about employee thief where you pad your expense account or where you take home supplies. I'm talking about when you just waste time on the job. The Bible calls that stealing. Look at Colossians 3, verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. See, if somebody is paying you for your time and you come in late, you leave early, you take 3 coffee breaks and a long lunch, there's not a whole lot of time left. So God says that's stealing. Don't do it. You steal by deceiving the customer, by defrauding employers. In your notes, number 3, we steal by delaying payments. If you've got suppliers or a friend, you owe them some money, do not say the check is in the mail. Do it now. Look at Leviticus 19, verse 13. Don't take advantage of anyone. Don't hold back the wages of someone you have hired, not even for one night. See, some business strategy actually says you will bill your customers immediately, but you pay your own bills in 160 days. And that way you will have their capital to use for your account. That is stealing. It's their money. They have a right to make their own profit, their own interest. Don't do it. Number 4 in your notes. We steal by deceiving the government. Look at Romans 13, verse 6 and 7. The authorities are working for God. Pay what you owe them. Pay your personal and property taxes. See, tax avoidance is a good stewardship. There's no reason you should overpay on taxes or not plan to maximize your money for good. There's nothing wrong with that. But tax evasion is illegal. God says that is stealing. Don't do it. We steal by deceiving the customer, defrauding employers, delaying payments, deceiving the government. And number 5 in your notes, we steal by defrauding the Lord. For our month of stewardship education, look at Malachi 3, verse 8. Please read it with me together out loud. Will a man rob God? Yet you rob me. But you ask, how do we rob you, God? By withholding tithes and offerings. See, the Bible teaches that you give a tenth, first 10% of all. It goes back to God. It's out of gratitude. Out of gratitude, why? Because you owe him everything. You would not have anything if it were not for God. So God, the Bible teaches that you give 10%. You save 10%, you live on 80%. One pastor was preaching through the 10 Commandments. A couple of ladies in his church came up after each of the services each week. When he preached on murder, they said to the pastor, give it to him, pastor, you give it to him. When he was preaching on adultery, they said, give it to them, pastor, give it to them. But when he started preaching about stealing from God, the lady said, now you're meddling, pastor, you're meddling. It was too personal. We look at 3 reasons why I should be honest. In your notes, number 1, I should be honest because I'm being watched. People will steal if they think they can get away with it. They think that nobody's going to know about it. See, if you knew that when you stole that towel from the motel, everybody was going to know about it, would you steal? Probably not likely. But Satan comes along and he says, nobody's going to know. That employer is just ripping you off anyway. You should be paid more. It's okay to take those extra supplies home. It's okay to take the equipment home. Nobody's going to know. Nobody will ever find out. Wrong. Look at Job chapter 34, verse 21 and 22. God carefully watches the goings-on of all mankind. He sees them all. No darkness is thick enough to hide evil men from his anger. So it's not true that nobody will know. Important people will. I'm being watched in 3 ways. Number 1, in your notes, you're being watched by God. God is the one you're going to have to give an account to, not anybody else. Nothing escapes God's view. I may fool other people. I may fool the government. I may fool the insurance company, but I'm not going to fool God. One day I will stand before God and give an account. I'm being watched by God. Number 2 in your notes, if you're a parent, you're being watched by your kids. And values, they are caught, not only taught. So what is my lifestyle communicating to my kids? Is there anything in my life I would be ashamed of if they knew? See, one of the greatest gifts that you can give to your kids is your integrity. Then number 3 in your notes, I'm also being watched by unbelievers. See, the Bible says, let your light shine so people can see your good works, and they will praise your heavenly Father. There are people who may not like your personality. They may even disagree with your faith, but they will respect your integrity. So every time you live with integrity, you say, I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to cheat, I'm not going to be dishonest. You're giving a witness to the world. You're letting your light shine. So number 1, I'm being watched. On the back of your notes, number 2, a second reason why I should be honest is I will reap whatever I sow. I will reap whatever I sow. Look at Galatians 6, verse 7. Don't be misled. Remember, a man will always reap just the kind of crop he sows. I want you to circle that word always in that verse. It does not say most of the time. It does not say some of the time. But it says always. Count on it. It is a law of the universe. If I plant corn seed, I'm going to get what for harvest? Corn, not potatoes. If I plant apple seeds, I'm going to grow an apple tree, not a peach tree. And no matter how much I wish it were a peach tree, it will always be an apple tree. Whatever you give out in life is what you're going to get back. And if I cheat other people, I'm going to get cheated. God says it will happen. You can count on it. Look at Proverbs 15, verse 27. Try to make a profit dishonestly, and you'll get your family in trouble. And the newspapers are full of that. Men and women who got their families in trouble because they were making a dishonest profit. So don't do it. You will reap what you sow. So what really motivates our dishonesty? Well, 3 reasons we steal. In your notes, number 1, greed. The Bible says that the love of money is the root of evil. It's the idea and the myth that we can, in your notes, we can get something for nothing. Do you know anybody like that? That's why people gamble. They want to get something for nothing. It's greed. Greed motivates gambling, and that's why it becomes a compulsion, an addiction for many people. I want to get something for nothing. That's also why God does not want you to gamble. He does not want you to trust luck or fate or chance just to receive his good gifts. God wants you to depend on him, not on the lottery, not on the casino. You don't get something for nothing. There's no free lunch. If it is, then it's an illegitimate lunch through your greed. Number 2, the second reason we steal, in your notes, laziness. If I can steal something, then I don't have to work for it. I can take a shortcut. We are a people looking for shortcuts. You know, when con men look for people to scam, what do they look for? In your notes, con men are looking for people who are looking for a shortcut. They're the easiest people in the world to con. People are looking for a quick fix, the fast deal. They can be conned very easily because the old saying is true. You can't cheat an honest man because he won't fall for a shortcut. He's going to go about it the right way. Number 3, the third reason we steal, in your notes, is pride. Somehow, in our warped sense of values, we get a thrill out of conning other people. Have you ever heard anybody say, I made a steal today? And he's really proud of it. When he cons somebody that he knows it's not a fair deal, the person just feels superior. But in your notes, conning people does not prove superior intellect, but it shows inferior character. Get that down. Conning people doesn't prove superior intellect, but rather it shows your inferior character. You step lower and then in order to rip someone off. So I should be honest because I'm being watched. I will reap what I sow. And the third reason in your notes, number 3, why I should be honest. Dishonesty damages my character. Jesus said in Mark 8, what good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul? Dishonesty shrinks my soul down to the size of a pea. I can give you a dozen reasons to make a lot of money quick, but they're all dishonest. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Well, look at John 8, verse 44. It says, devil is a liar. He's the father of lies. God is always truthful. He's always honest. He's never dishonest. So every time I choose to steal, I'm making a decision. And you know, am I going to become more and more like Satan, the father of lies? Or am I going to be more and more like God? You know, you often hear that excuse in the business world, I just cannot make it in the marketplace if I don't cheat. Well, you're dead wrong. If you know anything about business, in your notes, integrity pays. Customers want to return to where they can trust the company. There was a study done of 50 most profitable corporations in America. One thing only that all 50 had in common was they had a moral code of ethics. It's the one thing that they had in common. See, when you have a reputation that you just do not rip people off, we give value for value. We give $1 for $1. An honest day's work for an honest day's pay. People respect that, and you have repeat customers. That's prospering with integrity. So in conclusion, there are 3 steps to get you on the road to integrity. Number 1, you make restitution when possible. A good example of this is Zacchaeus. In the Bible, remember, Zacchaeus, that little short fella, when Jesus came to town one day, he could not see above the crowd. And the Bible says he climbed up in a tree. As Jesus came by, he looked up and said, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house today. Now, Zacchaeus was a dishonest tax collector. And in the Roman system, tax collectors were not paid. They just got to skim off the top whatever they could collect. But they became the wealthiest people in town, but also the most hated. After Jesus came to his house, Zacchaeus said in Luke 19, verse 8, if I have cheated anyone, I will pay him back 4 times as much. Now that is restitution. I'm reminded of the guy who himself cheated the IRS. So he sent a letter with a $500 check and said, I have cheated the IRS. Here's a $500 check. Then he writes, P.S. If I still feel guilty, I'll send the rest later. That's not full restitution. Number 2 in your notes, the second step to integrity is give God my full tithe. Looking at Malachi 8, is it right for a person to cheat God? Of course not. Bring the full amount of your tithes to the temple. God actually says that if you are not giving to God, you are paying your bills with stolen money that belongs to God. Do not rip God off. One day you have to give an account to him. People often say, tithing is only Old Testament. It's living under the old law. But so are the old 10 Commandments, Old Testament. Are you going to not keep them because they're in the Old Testament? In fact, because you are living under grace, not under law any longer, in your notes, you should do more. Because living under grace, we should do more. Third step to integrity, in your notes. Number 3, make a living honestly. Paul writes in Ephesians 4:28, a man who used to be a thief must give up stealing, do an honest day's work with his own hands. You need to live and act as if God himself were your boss. Work for the Lord, not for whomever your employer is. Make money honestly so you have a clear conscience. The Bible says no dishonest person will be allowed in heaven. That means you and I don't stand a chance. Nobody stands a chance in getting to heaven on their own. We all have sinned. But in your notes, Jesus paid for our dishonest ways by his work on the cross. Jesus took away God's wrath. He paid the penalty for our sin on the cross. And Jesus asked you and me to confess our sin and to rely on his forgiveness. He wants you to live a life of integrity. So make restitution, give God your full tithe, make a living honestly. Amen.